All right. Right now for me, take that phone and bury it as deep as you can, as far away from you as humanly possible. Okay, not far away from you, but as far away from your temptation as we can possibly make it. It is possible that at some point during the session today, we may take our laptops out to take a look at a few things, especially towards the end of the time we have. But in general, this is unfortunately a little bit of a sit and get, as they call it. So I do want your undivided attention. Now, this is really important because we are introducing the report. And as I've said repeatedly over our time, the criterion A portion of the report, so an actual portion of the report, is due on October 7th. It's on the assessment calendar. It's coming up sooner than you think. Now, the good news is that when we look at the sample today, you're going to see that it's actually not all that overwhelming, okay? In fact, if you've been using your MYP Foundations time well and doing the work outside of class that you're supposed to be doing, the vast majority of your criterion A is already done. That's good news, okay? All right, let's go ahead and get started. I've said this before. We've looked at this many times. The project is not about the report, but the report is about the project. And what that really means for us is that, and there's no way around it, we have to do the report. It's required. And it's not exciting, and it can be frustrating for some individuals. But at the end of the day, the best reports come from the best projects. All right, so let's talk about the purpose of the report. It's there so that you are demonstrating your engagement with the project. You are showing that you actually did what you said you did, that you actually experienced what you're telling us you experienced, that you actually produced what you said you produced. That's really, really important for you to keep in mind, and that you've recorded it throughout the process. You're demonstrating your engagement, you're summarizing your experiences that you have recorded through this process. Where do we record it? ACES. Okay, so what does it look like? It can be written, or it could be done in multimedia format. We're going to look at that in a little bit closer detail in a moment. It can also be a combination of the two, and I promise I'll show that to you, what that means and what that looks like before we're done today. Now, don't panic. I know what you're seeing. Everyone's heart is racing. Maximum of 15 pages. That sounds significant. It is significant. But I promise you, if you've done your job well with your process journal, you will not have difficulty filling 15 pages. Because it's not 15 pages of written words, it's 15 pages of words and evidence. You'll see that today. We do have an absolute standard, has to be in place, has to be 11-point Calibri or Arial, can't be anything else. It should be lots and lots and lots and lots of evidence. That is vital to this process. I do have some do's and don'ts. You want a bunch of images from this process. We're talking about this now on September 16th because many of you are not very far in your project. Many of you are not far enough in your project. But there's time, and you can start doing this now. The more images, the more moments you capture. If you go on a walk for whatever you're doing, you're learning how to skateboard, have your friend take a video of you doing it, or set up your camera so that you snap some videos or pictures of you doing it. Okay, it's important to capture evidence because the more evidence you have, the better and easier this process goes. Images from the process. Do not have any hyperlinks in your final report. No hyperlinks. Which means things like your success criteria, things like your action plan, which you're going to need to show evidence of, you're going to end up taking screen caps of. You're not going to link away to them, okay? You're already starting to process how quickly we're going to fill up 15 pages, right? Screenshots instead. That's what I said. This one really isn't much of a surprise. There should be no title page, absolutely none. Don't waste a page on a title page. In fact, you're sitting there thinking, how am I going to waste 15 pages? That's way more pages than I can use. Last year, I had students who were really struggling. They had more they wanted to put in than the 15 pages allowed. They had more evidence that they wanted to show than the 15 pages allowed. And there's no need for a table of contents, okay? In fact, I have a template that we'll look at in a little bit. There is a bibliography, MLA format, absolutely required. If you haven't already started your Noodle Tools collection of resources, you should do so as soon as possible, okay? I actually have a video that we will review about using that. If you're brand new to Noodle Tools, which by this point I'm shocked if anyone is, but if you are, we'll review that, okay? Multimedia does have an impact on the report. Now this matters for both evidence that you're using as well as if you decide to record, like, you could choose to do your report as, say, like a screencast, okay? Let's say you wanted to lay out all of your information, all of your evidence, and instead of having the written word, you wanted to screencast, talk over a slideshow, explaining your thinking. You can do that. That's acceptable. That's allowed. But it has an impact on the report. I'll let you take that in. Now, in my experience, about 90% of our students choose the pure written route, so they get 15 pages. Sometimes I have students, you're wanting to learn to play a song, and you want to include that song, right? You want to include the song as part of your evidence, okay? Sticking that in, if it's a 3-minute song, you now only have 12 pages to work with. Does that make sense? If you decide that you're going to do everything multimedia, you're going to screencast the entirety of the report, great. You get 15 minutes of recording time. Does that make sense? Excellent. Some guidance for multimedia. Images. Images need to be clearly visible at the size submitted. That is a weird statement, obviously. But this is what we find happens. We have students who are trying to cram in so much evidence. You have so much evidence that you shrink your images down to just itty-bitty little pictures. If the person cannot read it at the standard level, when your supervisor goes to review it, when it gets sent off to the IB to be moderated, if they can't view it and see the image, it will not count. Doesn't matter what you write. You can say, this is the most important part of my project. Look at this picture, and it's so tiny, it's got some written words on there, and nobody can tell what it is. Psh, they don't look at it. It doesn't count, okay? So do please keep the images at a size where it's readable, okay? They should be within the body of the report. And what that means is, at the appropriate moment, if you are writing about your action plan, and then that's where the action plan goes. There's no appendices. It's not like design where the stuff is all down at the bottom. Your evidence is down at the bottom. Stick the stuff where it is. If you're talking about an experience with something, you went somewhere, you met an expert, you've got an image of that, put the image right there, where it belongs, right by the writing that you're talking about, okay? For audio video, you cannot speed things up. It has to be in order to, none of those tricks, run it back at another speed, okay, that you might be aware of. Can't do that. And there are some file types that matter. Don't worry, all of this stuff's on the personal project website. You'll be able to review it, okay? If used as evidence to support the written report, be sure to clearly reference it. So here's the deal. You can't take an MP3 file and stick it into a written report, right? That doesn't work. I already told you no hyperlinks, right? So if you've got an audio recording of you playing the guitar and you're talking about it in reference and you want it to be used as evidence, the file name should be titled appropriately. and then you reference that file name directly in your report. Please go and see this file. File name, my recording number 1. Okay? Let's pause for a minute and see, are there any questions? Yeah? It won't work because the final thing that we kick out is the final format that gets kicked out won't support that. So don't. You can submit it as its own file, right? And I say GIF. That's where I come down on that. Yeah. No. Oh. Who? Okay. No, because I know what your project is. Yeah, you can. Yes, you can. Yes. Yep. Okay. Yeah, that would be that. Yeah, I understand the purpose of that. All right. Let's move forward. Let's take a moment to go to the personal project. We're gonna website. We're gonna jump out. We're gonna take a look at what we have here, and we're gonna dissect some of the information that's available to you. In the last 24 hours, I have activated a new section of the report. It's right here at the top. It's called Report Guidance. It's a little confusing because actually Report Guidance itself, when you hover over it, you're going to see Criterion A and additional requirements. But the button itself, Report Guidance, is also a website. Okay? So it's a place for you to come to. I want you to be. I'm not going to go through everything on the website. Okay, we're not going to do that. I'm going to go and point out a few key things. But what I want you to see is a lot of that reference stuff that I was just talking about. Those rules that you need to follow, they are here and present for you to come back and look over. But I wanted you to have a chance to see that. Okay. All right. So that's there. But let's go to first additional requirements. There is a bibliography, must be an MLA citation. It is 11-point font, and it happens as an entirely separate document. So that's done intentionally so that you get your full 15 pages. Do you understand? So we're not using any for a title page, for table of contents, for bibliography, all that stuff. Don't worry about any. The bibliography is separate, and it's MLA citation, 11-point font, same as the report, and a totally separate document. And the last thing is this. This is your academic honesty form. Quick question. How many of you have had your supervisor meeting? Awesome. Super cool. It's fantastic. That's really great news. On Manage Back, there is a location for you. I'm stalling. Oh, no, not community project. For you, yep, they're my 2 students. Aren't they lucky? They get me. They get me. Where are they? Raise their hands. Where are my guys? Yeah. Woo! All right. When you go in, yeah, Gio, I'm picking on you today. Gio and I just had our meeting right before this. Right here it says Meetings with Supervisor. When you click on Meetings with Supervisor, there is a place to write about your meetings. Now, here's the thing. The IB only requires 3 meetings. That's it. I promise this will connect back to the additional requirements. Stay with me. It only requires 3 meetings, but you are going to have at least 4. That's how many I require. And some of you may really rely on your supervisor. You might meet 5, 6 times with them, okay? But what we need you to do is we need you to do some of this recording. You go in and you type in just a brief summary of the meeting after it happens. So if you have met already with your supervisor and you need to go in and you haven't recorded your first meeting interaction, you should do so, okay? Please know that it locks you out after a period of time, so you really need to be ready to sit down and do it all in one chunk. My recommendation is work in a separate Google Doc and then copy and paste it in, okay? because that gives you time to wordsmith it. And it's just a summary of what happened during that meeting and the date that it happened. Why does that matter? Because at the end of this process, we generate an academic honesty form. If your neighbor is asleep right now, elbow them in the ribs hard. Thank you. All right. Your academic honesty form gets generated, and it goes with your report. And it's generated from your meeting supervisor. It actually takes what you write and drops those things in, verifying that you had those meetings, okay? So that's why that's there. But the last thing we're going to look at then is actually criterion A itself. All right, here we go. On criterion A, we have a very standard looking MYP rubric. And here's the best part, guys. There's no need for weird interpretation. There's no task-specific clarifications, if those are words you've heard your teachers use before. What you see on the page is what you get. It's as clear as can be. At the top end, it says presents a detailed plan for achieving the product and all of its associated success criteria. What does it not say? Where are my overwriters in the group? Yeah, you know who you are. What does it not say? What does it not ask you to do? What's the command? Write! It doesn't ask you to write anything. It just says presents. My good MYP folk know that when we see the command term presents, we know that present means offer for display, observation, examination, or consideration. Now, is it okay to write a couple of sentences? Here's my action plan. I had difficulty following it. Or this is my action plan. I had difficulty. Sure, that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But you can just present it. Okay? And I am realizing, okay, additionally, so it's really important to notice that the command terms are there. Use the command terms because they will help you with the process, okay? And then down here, potential evidence, right? This is a really helpful spot for you to go to. The reason I'm panicking is I realized there was one more page that I was supposed to turn on that I didn't. You guys get to see the guts behind the scene. Pages. All the stuff to come. Publish. Like magic. Okay. Now when we look, did I do it too fast? I apologize, guys. Give me just, honestly, it's super important because it's where the template is. There it is. Okay. All right. Thank you for that brief pause. Now we have template and sample. Because I'm a nice guy. Template and sample. Now here's the deal. Here's the truth. I'm only giving you a template for the written approach. Because if you're going to go with a multimedia approach, how can I give you a template, right? So just consider it. Like I said last year, about 80 to 90% of the people did pure writing only, and then everybody, for the most part, had at least a portion that was written, okay? So there's a template here for you to go. It's very straightforward. Here's the good news. I've spent all the time making sure that the margins are the right size, that the font is correct, that the font size is correct. I've done everything for you. And it's just basically a simple Google Doc, all right, that has learning goal, it has the planning section, learning goal, intended product, plan, and criteria. And then applying skills. Now, applying skills is criterion B. We don't have to worry about that yet. Okay? So you are only working on this top part, these first 3 sections. And what I have here is a sample of a student's. This is given to us by the IB, and I can tell you that it is a relatively, the IB claims it's a relatively high quality sample. We did use it as our guidance material last year, and our students did well with it. So we're going to continue that at least for 1 more year. I have only given you the criterion A. Look, learning goal, product success criteria presented, and then action plan for achieving the product. There it is. And you can read through and pick out the points that are writing, and then that's just a screen capture of their written success criteria, right? There's a little bit of writing about achieving the product, and then there's the actual plan for achieving the product. Okay? All right. Are there questions at this point about what you've seen, what you're experiencing, any thoughts that you have about the report? Really? Okay. What are the things that you need to make sure are completely done in order to be able to do criterion A? Turn and talk to your partner for a moment, or someone next to you. Come up with what are the things you need to make sure are completely finished, and I'm going to cheat for you. What needs to be completely done in order for you to be ready for criterion A? Okay, give me your full attention, please. Someone tell me one thing that you must have done and complete for criterion A, ready to put in. Branson. Learning goal. Yeah, give him a round of applause. Yeah. Anyone else want to finish that one for him? Learning goal and product goal. Now, raise your hand if you have a learning goal and a product goal. Raise it nice and high. Oh, whoo, you did it. You're done. Way to go. Because the second one says state the intended product. Now here, okay, what's one more thing we need to make sure we have completely finished for criterion A? Success criteria. Raise your hand if your success criteria are at least started. Wow! Woo! Round of applause. Okay. You should have figured it out by now. What's another thing we need? The third thing that we need. We need an action plan. Raise your hand if your action plan is finished. No, it's not. No, it's not. I'm not stupid. I know it's not finished. Raise your hand if your action plan is started. Okay. That's good. That's good. This is my point. The point I'm trying to make is that actually you guys are a lot closer to being done with criterion A than you thought you were. Okay? And so yes, it's due in 3 weeks. The criterion A draft is due in 3 weeks. But you have a lot of work that's already done or already started. And you have a huge amount of support material to help you. Okay? A huge amount of support material. The only section in criterion A, and this is the last thing I'm going to talk about, and then maybe we can get out of here just a minute or two early. The only thing that I want to spend a little bit of time talking about is this one right here. No, okay, don't try to do that. That didn't work. That failed miserably. Okay, it's this right here that talks about State a learning goal explains the connection between personal interests and your goal. That is the area in Criterion A where likely you are going to do the most writing. And you need to do a little bit of soul searching on that. You need to come up with how, we know the command term explain means give a detailed account including reasons or causes, right? And you need evidence. So maybe you're doing martial arts, you're improving your martial arts skills, or you're doing something with that. If you've got a picture of you as a little guy starting doing something with martial arts, you could use that as evidence of your personal interest. This is the one area that I will tell you students fell down on last year. We struggled to build the evidence to support the connection. Okay? Because this is supposed to come from a personal interest. This is the kind of thing that you can reach out to your supervisor and go, hey, I'm struggling. What should I do? Okay? Or me. You can reach out to me. But do spend some soul-searching time to decide not only what is my connection, my personal interest connection, but what evidence do I have to support that? And that's probably going outside. It's not something you've collected yet. It's probably not in your journal. Okay? All right, the last thing we're going to do is I understand, as I've spoken with some people, that there are one or two individuals in here who have not yet, and I didn't send that email I told you I was going to send. I failed. I didn't send it. Henry, I'm sorry. Did he? He got to you? Oh. If you have not yet heard from your supervisor, I need you to come down front so that we can sort that out. Flip side. If you have heard from your supervisor and you have not emailed back to that person, do not leave this room until you have sent that email. If you have either had your meeting or your meeting is already arranged, goodbye.